we'd like to welcome everyone to today's session. I am Ernest Stackhouse, president of AMMEA, Advocates for Music and Music Education Association, where our mission is to cultivate, support, and enhance music and music education in the state of South Carolina through fostering academic partnerships, preferring professional learning opportunities, and resources for classrooms. Today we have with us Dr. Gregory Drane, band director at Penn State University, and we have our illustrious host, moderator, Mr. Linard McCloud, that will take over from this point on. Mr. McCloud.
Good afternoon, guys. It's an esteemed pleasure today to introduce this young guy who hails from the bottom, and he's a Liberty City guy from Miami, Florida, a graduate of Norland High School in Miami, where they have some great bands. He was a band geek, hanging out in the band room rather than going back home in the hood, back on the block. But he was a band geek. He later went on to Bethune-Cookman, where he got two degrees. He got a degree in just music education, and he got a degree on saxophone. And then he went to from there he went to Penn State, where he got his master's and was working there, and they hired him, and he completed all the work for his PhD, and he's all the coursework for his PhD, and now he's ready to finish up, and we'll be calling him Dr. Gregory Drane in a few months. He directs the marching band, the athletic bands, and in the Big Ten you got volleyball. He does all the bands except I didn't see the wrestling thing, because they're high with wrestling. They got volleyball, hockey, and basketball. He directs those, and he's also one of the assistant directors with the concert program. And he teaches music to the general population at the university so they can get arts credit. Just a pleasure to welcome this young guy who's a prolific writer, show designer, and Dr. Gregory Drane. Welcome to the meeting today.
Awesome, outstanding. Thank you so much, Mr. McCloud. Also, thank you, Mr. Stackhouse, for having me. Just a point of clarification, I have finished my PhD. We got that all done this spring, so I was able to graduate back in May. So it was a long haul, but we were able to get that done. So that's just one area to point out there. But yeah, also with all of the bands that we do, although we do not have a specific band for our wrestling team, we do play at wrestling matches, if you will. So, as I say, wrestling. We go to the wrestling match. But yeah, Penn State is a very, very large place. And as a result, the band is always in high demand, and also with the athletic bands program there. So.
Okay, you about ready? Well, we're gonna come. We have a series of questions that we're gonna ask, and then we're gonna open up for questions that the guys may have for you. But the first question is, what are your strongest attributes as a director?
That's a great question. I believe for me, as I've been trying to grow and develop in multiple areas, one of my strong suits is I've learned that I have the ability to create. And just being frank, I know there are a lot of folks in our profession that are able to replicate. And I think one of my unique things is being able to create new things, looking at something old and just flipping it and turning it to be able to create a new perspective or a new idea and look at things differently within that. I think another one of my strong suits is also just being organized, extremely organized. And it's something that I had to learn when I took over the head director role, which was to delegate, delegating who does what and when they're supposed to do those things. And then identifying talent, acquiring talent, and training folks up. So those are just, I believe, some of my strong suits, but I think if you ask a different person, they may tell you, other different things as well about me.
Good, when I think about what you're doing, this second question, it's amazing how in a Big Ten school like Penn State, and we know the historical facts about that. You have a black football coach, you got a black athletic director, and a black band director. Wow. What are the challenges in teaching at a Big Ten university, and especially being an African American?
For me, the number one challenge was getting adjusted to this cold weather. Coming from Miami, Florida, I had never seen snow until I got to State College. So that was my first time, and it was real cute for, the first week. It was like, oh, look at the snow. And then after a while, it became, oh, crap, here go this freaking snow again. So, but, and I'm still not quite up. Well, I'm adjusted, but I still don't like it. But just getting accustomed to the weather, and also being at a Big Ten university, and again at a Penn State where you got 40,000 students, and for us, diversity has just been a challenge where the black population is less than 1% of the university. I'll say that again. We got 40,000 students, and the black population is less than 1%. So I came in as a master's student and still developing as an adult, learning myself and then being cast and thrown into that environment, So in a number of areas, I had to grow up really quickly. And in a number of other areas, I had to define myself really quickly, who I was and who I wanted to be, because I'm just being frank, again, I was so afraid of losing my blackness in this huge sea of whiteness, if you will. If you watch the games on TV, you know that we have 100,000 fans, and it is just a sight to see within that. But so that was a challenge for me, and then becoming the assistant director and going to these Big Ten meetings, and everybody else was 25 years older than me. White male, silver hair, so on the one end, it was that difficult part of being the only one there. But then on the other end, I kept saying, hold on, I think I am in the right room, because those guys have the positions that I want to hold one day. You know what I mean? So I just kind of kept holding on to that idea of that, yes, I'm in the right room. Yes, there are challenges right now because I'm the only black man in the room. But at the end of the day, I truly believe that one day I was going to have an influence and be an influential voice in the room with regards to that. But then on the marching band side of things, the thing that was so interesting to me was how much the Big Ten had in common with HBCUs. That absolutely blew my mind. Where I'm just looking at the marching style, which is the high knee lift, the traditional style, and looking at the historical aspects. I was just like, whoa, So the Big Ten bands had there was a lot more similarities to the HBCUs in that regard of the marching style. Of course, there's going to be some music selection differences and things like that. But that was just mind blowing in that regards about how close we were. So I think me coming from an HBCU actually ended up becoming an asset, that I was able to quickly understand that traditional style and the meaning and the importance of it, within the show of doing a drill and show concept.
Well, you do know historically, traditional style it changed the name to traditional style. Was always the Big Ten style that we did, but somebody called it traditional, but it was always the Big Ten style. And I could relate to you with the weather, because remember we talking. I went to Iowa and slipping around the streets and all that snow. I mean, it's terrible. But I want to commend you for some other things before I ask the next question that you've done, and a lot of people aren't aware that you give back by I guess coercing or just letting kids, young band directors come and work under you or work at Penn State, and you've been able to put a second black in the Big Ten. I think we have a band director now in Wisconsin that came under your tutelage as a black guy, and then you even got a white guy who was one of your assistants. He's at the University of Iowa, so that's very noteworthy. And so we commend you for all those accomplishments as well. And so what advice would you give to a young director seeking to work on the college level? And are the qualifications and expectations sometimes unreasonable?
What advice would I give to young directors? First off, you know, I know a lot of people seek to get to the collegiate level, but it's a lot bigger job than you really think it is. You know, I see my director sitting right there, and you know, I'm just reflecting on the times where I was sitting, you know, on the other side, under his baton, and I'm like, well, why is he doing that? You know, and in my mind, thinking, well, I would have did it this way, and I would have did it that way. So it's kind of that same good regards as, you know, as you become an adult and you're looking at your parents, why are they making those decisions? And then now that I got to that level, and I'm like, oh yeah, my director knew a lot more than I thought he did. You know what I mean? Because, you know, they have a different perspective. You know, you are in charge of these large programs, such as my program, 325 students in the marching band. And then I got 15 members and levels of members. I got a core group of staff members that work full-time. And then I got about 4 part-time staff members. And then I got some staff members that only show up on game day. And I have to communicate on all of those levels. I got to communicate to the students. There's got to be this constant back and forth. Did I freeze? Uh-oh. Hello? I think I froze.
Yeah, your camera froze, but we can still hear you.
Okay, all right, yeah. So I got all of these levels to communicate on. I have all of these students of various learning styles that I need to communicate with. And then, as I always jokingly tell people, I got 4 bosses. I got the director of School of Music, I got the dean, I got the athletic director, and then if the president calls, my answer is always yes. So I got all of these folks that I have to report to as well. And then, as you guys very well know, we got about 1,000 more people that think they're our boss that we see on Facebook and Twitter and everything that they have to say about what we're doing. You know what I mean? But I still have some obligation to them. Don't get me wrong, you know, I don't want to give them too much credit, but I do hear and listen, you know, because they are our stakeholders and I want them to believe in the program. So there's a lot of fastballs coming in at you all the time in these roles, okay? Where most of you guys got one principal, you know, you may report to in the high school level and things like that, you know, where I got so many. And a lot of times their initiatives are in conflict within against each other. So, you know, being able to manage complex situations is huge. It's huge. And you know, and if you're not able to do that at the high school level, then it's going to be 1,000 times harder at the collegiate level. You know, although I don't have to deal with band parents like you guys do, I do have alumni, okay, and who give a considerable amount of support for the band. All right, and as they, you know how just like everybody else, you know, if they give their money, they believe they have some entitlement to what needs to say. So I always tell them, hey, you know, I'd love to have your money, but you can keep your 2 cents. So, but you still have all of these entities that you're constantly working for on behalf of, and then the student. You know, you got to serve these students. You know, in my situation, I do not have scholarships. We're able to get 325 students without scholarships. And I cut about 150 students every year that do not make the band. So I'm fortunate to have such this positive culture that attracts students, you know, and this and that, you know, where they still want to pursue their degree. And then also, you know, take on the extra 20 hours a week of being in the band. So I had to approach it from a different angle in regards to getting folks to work and inspiring them to work in that regard. I think the other questions are the qualifications and expectations sometimes unreasonable? Yes. But that's just like, with any job, if you will, going into those situations, a lot of times, you get in the spot and you realize you're doing the work of 2 or 3 people within that. So yeah, sometimes the qualifications are unreasonable. Even as I, mulled going back and forth over, should I get my doctorate degree? From a financial standpoint, nah, it ain't make sense. You know what I mean? But for me, it was a personal personal thing that I wanted to do for myself. But now we see that there's been so many more people getting doctorate degrees and things like that now it has become necessary in order to compete for those positions. And some of them I see they're asking for doctorate degrees and then want to turn around and pay you $35,000 a year, and you're just like, yeah, that is totally unreasonable. But yeah, did I answer that question for you?
Yeah, you certainly did. You certainly did. And the final question, so that everybody else can get a chance to ask some questions. I know you, high school, I recognize what happened to you in high school because I know you're director from high school. And I know you came from a small college band at BCU. I know they're pretty small, probably about 300 people, smaller than what you have in your 325. But no directors is a success by themselves. Who do you attribute your growth and development as a director? And what did you learn from them to shape your teaching concepts, styles as a band director?
Yeah, great question. One of them you alluded to earlier, my high school director, Mr. Kenneth Talbert, just being in that band program, he used to have to run us out of the band room. All we wanted to do was practice, practice, practice. I mean, and we were playing, I remember being in the 9th, 10th grade and we playing saxophone quartets. That's how I know Mr. Fleming, because I just wanted to be better than him. He was a great saxophone player. But we used to playing saxophone quartets after marching band rehearsal. Like, this is what we did. That was our culture, of practicing and challenging each other. So I really appreciated that environment. But then also, my college director, I think as I said, he's also here, Mr. Wells. I was there at Cookman when I first got there. We were 96 strong, and within a 2-year period, we had tripled in size. So watching him build the program through those challenges to change the culture to what it is now, and I had a front row seat, to see that. And those other leadership aspects that I learned, from Mr. Wells, and he's not, there's no secret about how he runs his program. He is the end all and be all. The buck stops with him, and I learned how to be assertive in that way, but also with my own voice. I could not be, Mr. Wells. So I learned how to be assertive in those regards, but as I moved on and then moving into a Penn State, I began learning other ways and expanding my leadership voice with that. But my teaching concepts, again, I do go to the structure that I learned being in Mr. Wells' program. It is this, how to set up the structure to have the success that you want at the end of rehearsal. Okay. And within every minute, we knew what Mr. Wells wanted from us. Okay. And he wasn't going to leave until he got it. So, but seeing that structure and how to communicate clearly and effectively in that regards, I know all of these fancy words, these musical terms, these Italian terms and words and stuff like that, but being able to communicate that at the lowest level, to be able to break it down and get exactly what we want. So those are some of the things that definitely learned from Mr. Wells. But then a lot of other areas as I continue to develop, learning from my supervisor at Penn State, which was Dr. Bundy. And he was just an extremely humble, person. And he really engages and cares about people's feelings, you know. And at first I was just like, man, why does he care? You know, but now that I'm more of a leader, I understand that now. Being able to tap into people's feelings and emotions help me learn what motivates them. You know what I mean? So how to engage with each different person, finding out what motivates them in order to get the things that I may need at the time and stuff like that. So I guess my three band directors, you know, have been influential to me and my teaching styles.
Can we talk? Are we unmuted?
Go sit down.
Hey.
Greg, we mistakenly got you muted. Could you unmute yourself?
There I am. Thank
All
you.
right.
Oh, as I was saying, you know, as a result of being able to work with three different directors, I think I'm versed in various styles, and I can pick and choose whichever one may be necessary at the time to achieve the best results.
Well, I tell you what, man, I'm very impressed with you. You know, I've seen you then, but you know, I've seen you in the FAMU camps, and I've seen you when you came down to Burke at the Palmetto, and you were one of those ones sitting over there drinking your tea and eating some of that good Charleston food, and you got a great, you know, I know Talbot, and certainly, you know, I know Wells, and so you got great mentors, and just appreciate the kind of work you're doing. I know a lot of guys want to ask you some questions, but just enjoy talking with you. And Stackhouse, go ahead and take the floor.
All right. I'm not going to take up too much of your time today, but we do have some questions that we want to get to. Mr. Taylor Whitehead is first up. If you have your microphone muted, Taylor, could you unmute? Yes, sir.
Okay. My question is pretty simple. First of all, thank you so much for once again having this, and good to see everybody, and everybody's looking good. But my question is for Mr. Drane. First of all, congratulations too. On the HBCU side, you know, one of the things that we struggle with or have struggled with the last couple of years is Trey Songz. Talk to us a little bit about at Penn State, your approach to Trey Songz, and how have y'all handled them?
That's a great question. At the end of the day, I pay them their money. You know, but we have some the Big Ten band directors, we all meet together, but we have put together kind of a coalition. And so we're doing some fighting with them behind the scenes. You know, we've actually hired a lawyer, and we've been engaged with some of their practices, quite frankly, are just bad practices, you know, and they are really taking advantage of the profession, because honestly, they first came on the scene saying that they were going to be here to help band directors speed up this process. And then they turned around and said, oh yeah, no, now we represent the copyright owners, you know, where originally they said they were representative of us, but we simply pay them. And my reason being is because, you know, we're on national TV on a regular basis, you know what I mean? So at that regard, I have to protect the university in that regard. So I'd rather go ahead and pay the little $400 or $500 a tune. Actually, I set aside a budget of almost $10,000 just for copyrights for that. But so from my perspective, because we're on national TV a lot more, like I said, I just have to be a good steward of the university in that, because they do have some legal footing. It's not very strong. You can fight it, but you know, at the end of the day, that's what they're counting on, the fact that you won't fight it and just pay them.
Thank you, sir.
And who handles the arrangements for the Blue Band?
I use a collection of arrangers. One of them right here on the call, Mr. Chandler Wilson. He writes a significant amount of music for us from time to time. Whenever I don't forget, whenever I try not to forget about it, I'll be like, oh no, I gotta call Chandler, because he don't call me. He don't be wanting to cold call and get this money. So I had to remember to pay him money. But we use a whole cohort of arrangers. So, you know, and just because I like to capture different sounds, different soundscapes from the different arrangers and stuff like that. So I use a number of arrangers.
All right, next question we have is from Dwayne Sanders.
Dr. Drane, congratulations, man. Man, I just want to say congratulations. But when you talk about culture, I'd like to know, how much have you changed the culture in the Penn State music program, and was there a lot of resistance?
That's a great question. Have I changed the culture? I think if you hear us on any game day, you'll be able to tell that we have changed the culture. You know, we've been able to change the culture of the band. And that's the area that I have the most influence. You know, one of the things that we've done is a few years ago, we've adapted a value system to kind of help guide behaviors and how we interact with each other. And that has had a significant impact on the students. But yeah, the culture has changed. What we do in the stands, you know, and I hear from a lot of folks where they're watching a Penn State football game and they say they do a double take, and they ended up like, oh man, what's going on Penn State? They must have a brother over there. That's always the quote that I get. I heard something and I knew I had to come looking, and that's that's actually how I get to meet a lot of folks at the stadium. They're like, I heard this tune and I knew there had to be a brother over here. But some of those tunes have now become embedded, you know, in the culture of Penn State, if you will, you know, and I know sometimes I get criticism from the band heads, you know, about the selections that we may play in regards to that. But, you know, I'm being true to myself. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
If I was up there and not playing black music, I'm sure people would have something to say about me then. You know, but I want to be true to myself. And yes, I got a PhD, but I like trap music.
Right.
So you're gonna hear some black music if I'm the band director. I don't care if the band is white, Latino. It doesn't matter to me, you know. So that's me being true to myself, and also my upbringing and the music that I grew up on. Within regards to that, but you still gonna hear, you know, other classical tunes, if you will, of various genres. But we have really changed our culture, if you will, changed how our athletic department view us. We have changed how the university views the marching band. So there's been significant changes, but there's some other cultural things we're still working on, just like including more diversity within the band. You know, and that's just going to be a huge mountain that I expect to be climbing for the rest of my career.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. I guess diversity, and I know being at a primarily white institution, diversity on the campus itself is challenging. But how do you approach? Since you said you don't do recruiting, really, how did you then manage diversity within your program?
You know, I do targeted diversity recruiting. So I do specifically try to recruit black students, you know, and I want to be clear when I say black students, because when you say diversity at a university level, you know, that includes everybody. And I want to be clear,
right.
I'm talking about black people. And I'm trying to recruit black people. But so I do have specific events. There's one specific event I have on campus. I call it Forward March, the Blue Band Experience, where we bring high school students to participate with us at a game day. But I take it a step further, and I go out and I sponsor an entire black high school to bring their whole band. I pay for their bus, their meals, and everything in order for them to come out. Even with that, you know, it's been good. I've been working on some other areas. I've been working with some donors. So they were so inspired. They actually created an endowment and a scholarship fund for me to be able to continue to do that. So specifically for diversity recruitment and stuff. So, but that's kind of how I approach it, because my challenge is I can't get them in school, you know. So I do work with the admissions office, but I do not have as much leverage, if you will. But the other area where I have direct control is in our hiring. You know, in the past 5 years, I've had 6 assistant directors. And within, you know, within that time, 4 of them moved on and are now head directors at their respective colleges. So that's where I can have immediate impact, you know, which is with the hiring process and also getting graduate assistants. And I specifically look for Black graduate assistants to come work with me and be a part of our program.
Awesome. All right. Next up, we have a question from Jonathan Lilly.
All right. Hold on. Can you guys see me? Hey,
Yes.
How you doing?
Yes, sir.
How you doing? I'm from Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm currently a master's of music education student at UNCG online. So I guess my process is a little different from everyone else. But I am seeking or willing, or I'm trying to be basically in your position as well, and work with a PWI institution. How does someone like me, who's not really affiliated or working with a program now, find programs that are willing to work with someone like myself?
No, that's a great question, and good luck on your master's program, if you will. But I think at the end of the day, making sure you're engaging in those communities, you know, and just like you would with any other job, how they kind of go out and take internships, you know, you find somebody that you want to learn and work from, and hey, can I come be at your band camp? You know, I'm kind of from the old school in that regard. That's kind of how I know Mr. McCloud, because those guys every rooms and spend time in everybody's bedrooms, and so that's kind of how I learned. But I think doing the same thing in those various band rooms, if they're white schools or Black schools, and getting to know those folks that believe what you believe musically and philosophically, and learning from them in all those regards, you know, and that's kind of how you'll be able to find your in, if you will. But at the end of the day, make sure you get good grades.
That's right. All right. Dr. Drane, you said that you utilized the HBCU style, or your HBCU experience, I guess, to help you in your current position, and it's been a positive. How, I guess my question is, how did you manage transitioning or incorporating core style elements into your wheelhouse?
Learning, just like anything else. You go out, and I've observed it. I'm not a drum corps fan, but I know I needed to learn more of those techniques and why they did it. So one year I went to one, it was a couple summers, I would go to 2 or 3 drum corps shows a summer to learn. And then once those videos was online, I'm watching and I'm studying and I'm learning, you know what I mean? Teaching myself, like, okay, I see how they did that. Oh, I see how this piece came together. I understand the visual impact that they're trying to accomplish, you know? So that's kind of how I started doing it. And just like you would do in any other field, just go out and be a student of the game, you know, in order to expand my palette, you know? But it wasn't just those drum corps I was watching. I was watching all the HBCUs on Sunday mornings. That's what I spent my time doing. Who had the, you know, exciting halftime shows? But I didn't just stop there. I was like, what made it exciting? And I try to dissect those shows. What made it so enjoyable? And then I take those same questions looking at a drum corps show. Why was this so good? How did they achieve that effect? And digesting that. Just as you would, you know, I'm looking at Chandler. I'm sure he has studied the other great composers.
Right.
Why did this work for him? You know, and through that, you begin learning and finding your voice, you know, but still studying and understanding. So that was a big part of my development. And I'm not done learning. I'm still out there watching who's got the great halftime shows, because I try to capture the musical essence of the music, and I also visual. You know, I want to evoke a feeling when you watch our halftime show. I want there to be a wow moment. I want you to feel something, throughout that.
What's your, I guess, you and your staff's approach and process for creating a halftime show?
Oh, my staff, well, let me back up a little bit. As I told you, I've been able to develop assistant directors, and I'm always working with them because I want to prepare them to be head directors. As a result, I split my halftime shows with my assistant directors. I write some and they write some, So after we get all the halftime shows settled out, what we're going to do, what we're going to play, then we divide up the drill writing responsibilities. And of course, I get first pick, so I take the best ones. And then I leave the other ones for them. But no, so we kind of divvy it out. But then the actual drill writing, that's kind of just on the individual drill writer. But we do, one thing that I do is I check in with my staff. When I'm writing drill, I show them a draft. What do y'all think about this? So I'm getting feedback. They're like, oh, that's cool. Have you thought about this? No, I didn't think about that. Boom, and I go back, but constantly getting feedback, and now there's a couple of my colleagues and they're on the calls now. There's been numerous times I sent them videos. Hey guys, I'm working on this. What does that look like? And they'll be like, yep, that sucks. Do it over. Jack Edie. But getting that feedback early, in the process, for that's just kind of some of my procedures. And then after I get the steak and potatoes, then I try to add the garnish after that. Like, what are the little small things that I can add to make this a little bit better?
I'm a huge Big Ten fan, and Ohio State's one of my favorite bands. When you go up against an opponent like that in such a storied program, what's it like on game day?
You just had to mention Ohio State. All right. He just destroyed all my energy.
Oh, my bad.
In fact, I'm going to put a link in our chat group, and it's a video of us playing in Ohio State. They got this pregame thing that they do. Some would call it a gym battle, but pregame concert, and we blew the walls down in that one. So I'll post that one for you. But what is it like playing against those kind of schools?
Yeah, your Ohio States, your Michigans.
I mean, it's just like any other big team, or great team. You want to go and see how you measure up against the best,
Right.
So my first 5 years, I took our band to those places. We went to Ohio State. We went to Michigan. We went to the Michigan State, to share the field. What is it like being across from, the big boys? And quite frankly, we're considered one of the big boys in our own right. But for me, at the end of the day, it's still not a battle. You know what I mean? I'm going in there like, okay, what am I going to learn from them? What I'm looking at, what is it that they do so well that captures my attention? Ohio State, they can march their butts off. They are excellent marchers, but they spend a lot of time, on that. Go to Michigan, that band is huge, and they create some very engaging shows. Go to Michigan State, those boys can flat out play.
Oh, yeah.
They can flat out play, so I'm always looking at how are they doing those things so well that they do. So it's not necessarily competition, if you will, but I do say at the end of the day, if people do make a comparison, I would like for them to say that we're better, But
Stackhouse.
Yeah.
Drane is being modest because Penn State was not always in the Big Ten, and when they came to the Big Ten, they were like the stepchild in the Big Ten, and then recently under his leadership, they're now one of the most competitive and must-see bands in the Big Ten. So he's pretty modest, but he's built that up where everybody want to see Penn State too. And so
Yeah, I knew he was being modest. I was going to see how he's going to answer that question. You know, he softballed it, but yeah, I know.
Like I said, I will just post the link to the video when I.
All right. We have a question from the floor from Mr. Gary Rogers. Gary Rogers.
Dr. Drane, first of all, I want to say congratulations on your accomplishment, getting your PhD. That's awesome.
Thank you so much.
My question to you is, what other responsibilities do you have in the music department? Classes you teach, etc.
Yeah, so also in the music department, I teach a couple of music theory courses for non-majors, and that's actually a course that I really enjoy. I just posted the YouTube link, so you guys make sure you download that so you can check out the video later. And also I do right now do the concert band. Penn State has 4 concert bands. So in the springtime, I do the audition non-major group, which is a pretty good group. We played a couple grade 5s and grade 6s last semester in there. So those are the majority of the classes that I teach. The blue band is positioned very uniquely. Like I am almost my own department head, you know, within the School of Music, because I got my own staff. You know, I got about 4 full-time staff, you know, 2 of them being faculty members, and then there's a total of 500 students that come through the program. When you add up the marching band students and also the athletic bands, we got 500 students. And then the other part about it is, you know, I raise my own money, you know, so so there comes a little bit of autonomy with that in that regard. So administrating the whole program, that's a whole nother job within itself. So that's pretty significant.
Awesome. Thank you for that question. So we have another question from Miss Joanne Gates.
Hi.
Hi, Joanne.
Hi. My question is, what percentage of the band is music majors? Are music majors?
Great question. It is less than 30%. The majority of majors in my band are engineering majors.
Wow.
Yeah, less than 30%.
Next question is from Mr. Rodney Chisholm.
We can't hear you, Rodney. We can't hear you, Rodney.
Y'all hear me now?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, got you.
Hey, okay. What's going on, Doc? How you doing, man? I just joined in, and I wanted to ask how were, okay, coming from an HBCU, and I don't know if you answered this question already, but how did you get the Penn State, you know, audience to buy into your philosophy?
That's a great question. Coming from an HBCU, the first thing when I got to Penn State, let's back up. Being at an HBCU, the band was so engaging with the fans that when I did get to Penn State, it was shocking that the band was so disconnected from the fans. So I'm sitting there like, okay, how does this go on? All right. Now let's also factor in the fact that, you know, being at the HBCU, the band was the entertainment because, quite frankly, depending on the year, it might not have been football worth watching. Let's just be honest. Well, you know, at least for my years, you know, I mean, now that we whooping up on FAMU on a regular occasion, you know, the football is a lot more worth watching. But then I got to Penn State. The band was not as engaged with the fans, you know, but of course we all wanted to keep our eyes on this football game that was going on. So I was trying to figure out a way, how do I marry the two? All right. how do I engage the fans, also keeping the focus on the game, but engaging the fans into the game? You know, so I just really been thinking about the things that HBCU bands, we naturally do, singing and dancing and playing in the stands, engaging in that way. So I was trying to think of a way of doing that in the in service to the game. And that's where I was sitting at home one day watching a soccer game, and I heard Seven Nation Army. Oh, 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 oh. And I was like, boom, that is it. Penn State, we were, I won't be modest about this. I was the first to play that in a American sporting event. And Seven Nation Army took off from there because of bringing that, you know, I wrote an arrangement, the band played it quickly caught on, and now you can't go to any sporting venue in America and not hear that. That came from me. You know, but again, you know, it came from my idea and my experience of being in an HBCU band. You know what I mean? So I know we always talk about innovation and stuff like that, but it's taking something old and just putting a slight new spin on it, or engaging something in a different way. But to go back to your question, Rodney, about them buying into my philosophy, I also had to understand what their philosophy was first. I had to understand what they valued, what their community appreciated. So they appreciated it when you were supporting the team and supporting the game. So that's what I focused on. And you know, and I made it slowly but surely, making those changes. You know, it just became, you know, after a while, now they expect the band to play every down, you know, or always be engaged in that way. And we are now the driving force in the game. You know, we are the soundtrack of the game. And now you hear a lot of other schools trying to emulate that. But again, that's what I brought from my HBCU experience to where I'm at now. So it's kind of trying to marry that, you know what I mean? And fix that. I always think of it as being a chef, Rodney. You know, if you're a down south chef and you now find yourself, you know, in the Northeast, you look at all the ingredients that they have up there, but adding your flavors to those things in order to create something new.
Awesome. Thank you for that. All right, next up, we have a question from Mr. Kelvin Jones.
You muted.
Hello there, Dr. Drane. My name is Kelvin Jones here, longtime fan and huge admirer of you. And I just had a question for you for those you know directors and educators who longly look up to people like you. What would be some of your advice for us, you know, lowly directors, you know, aspiring to be the greatness that you possess?
Thank you so much, Dr. Jones. It's great to see you. You know, I'm glad you asked that question, but I think they could use they can borrow a page from out of your playbook, which was just call me every day until I answer the phone.
Got it. All right, got it.
Now, Dr. Jones is a great friend of mine. I and Dr. Edie, we've talked almost every day. You know, just about trying to be better band directors and expanding our roles in this. But you know, the one thing that actually the three of us were just recently talking about is that we hope, you know, the three of us, as I speak for them, that we hope out of this quarantine and all of this, that we have learned that connecting with others like this is a lot easier than we really thought, you know. So it is easy to reach out to me. You know, it's easy to get in contact with me. I'm always open and I'm always available, but especially for those young directors. And I try to do my part to reach out to them. But the field continues to grow. So if you guys see me, just holler at me.
How often do you get back onto the, I guess, the East Coast to do any kind of clinics or anything like that?
I'm sorry, my sound went out. What was the question?
How often do you get back on this side of things on the East Coast to do any kind of clinics or anything?
I try to come back at least once a year, but at the end of the day, you know, I can't go nowhere I'm not invited. You know what I mean? So if folks invite me back, I will gladly come. You know, I end up in Atlanta regularly, as a couple friends always invite me back to come to their band rooms and work their groups and things like that. So I do end up in Atlanta fairly often, but I'm open to traveling.
All right, band directors, we got it on tape. You committed, coming back, helping us out. All right. So next question. I guess as a band director, what can I do to send you a Penn State student? What can I do to prepare a student in a way that they will be prepared for your program?
Yeah, that's a great question. We do auditions. It's a part of our band camp, you know, so I don't know what my band is going to be until the second day of band camp. So we get a whole influx of students, and actually our returning students have to audition as well. So everybody auditions every year. And if there's a hot shot rookie, he might take your spot and you might not be in the band this year. You know, as a result, everybody comes back prepared, you know, and at first I thought it was a waste of time, but I love it. You know what I mean? It keeps the returning members making sure that they're sharp, you know, and making sure that they do what they need to do. But within that, we have this music audition, and 50% of their score is sight reading. I'll say that again. 50% of that score is sight reading, you know. So I know they come in, I got some students come in and they play, you know, some concerto, play the doors off of it, and then I put this sight reading in front of them and they fall apart. All right. Or I've had some other students who may play a mediocre solo, but I put that sight reading in front of them and they rip it, boom. They rip through the sight reading. That's the student I want, you know, because we're turning over halftime shows. We learn a halftime show in 3 days.
Wow.
We rehearse about 2 hours a day and we learn a halftime show in 3 days. So there's certain things I don't have time to be working with, you know. I don't have time to be telling you how many counts a dotted quarter note gets in 6/8 time. You know, you need to be able to see that music, interpret that music. And it's now my job, because of time, I come in and I lay on my interpretation of the music, how I want the music to be played. I don't have time for the notes and rhythms, you know what I mean? So 50% of that score is sight reading. And as we know, sight reading is a skill. You know, and that was highly emphasized in my high school band program. We played something, we sight read every day, you know, but that was just a part of it. And I think a lot of students are not coming to the table with those sight reading skills anymore. So I would highly recommend, you know, high school directors, you know, spend time, you know, with that, developing that skill, you know, in the ensemble setting and also on their as individuals.
Now, you said you guys have 4 concert bands, and one of them is for non-majors. What are the other 3?
So our top group, which is a symphonic wind ensemble, as you guys know, we just hired Dr. Tanya Mitchell-Spradling. She'll be our director of wind band studies. So she'll be conducting that wind ensemble. Right now, we're deciding who's going to conduct the second group, which is the symphonic band. Those 2 are majors, but the symphonic wind ensemble, about 50% of those students are master students on their instruments, on performance, and then the others are like top, you know, senior music majors. Then you have the symphonic band, and that is all music majors, and majority of them, again, the younger majors, if you will. Then you have the concert band, which I conduct. Again, that's an audition group, and that's for typically non-majors. Sometimes we get a couple of music majors playing in there. And then we have what we call the campus band, and that's usually all non-majors, and it's non-audition. So you just show up, and y'all come play, as we say.
So if I was a student and wanted to come to Penn State as a music major, are there scholarships available for the major?
Yes. Yes. And so a majority of those scholarships are distributed through the major in that way. So yeah, so there's tons of scholarships that are available to be a music major and stuff like that, you know. But you know, Penn State it's an expensive school, you know what I mean? So I'm like, hey, if you want to be here, make sure you come here and get everything you can out of it. You know, it is just like buying a brand new Lexus for 4 years straight.
Right.
That you'll never see.
All right. So we got some very, very, very important people on before we get off, and I wanted to give them an opportunity to say some words. First up, Mr. Wells. Mr. Wells, you want to chime in right quick?
I can hear you. Try again.
He's still muted.
Can you hear me now?
Gotcha.
Yeah, man. Okay, good. First of all, Greg, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great, Mr. Wells.
Look, man, I want to tell you in front of everybody that's on the call, I'm extremely, extremely proud of you. And I've told you that many times before. Greg, when he as a student, he was just an exemplary student, and you could just see band director in him from day one. And we came to Bethune-Cookman at the same time. I just got on the staff, and he was a freshman here. And to see the growth that he's had, and I appreciate your comments today, especially when you said that you're staying true to yourself. And with all the success that you have and in the environment that you're in, you're still Greg Drane. You're still a brother from Miami, graduated from Northern High School. And I can appreciate that, because I've seen brothers that they lost somewhere they lost who they are. So, you know, I can really appreciate that. Two quick questions, Greg. By not teaching public school, did that help? Did that hurt? Or it didn't have a factor at all? And my second question is that looking at the climate of our country right now, and being at State College, and not a lot of people at State College that look like you and I. And how do you think that's going to be when the season starts? And do you think it'll have an effect there with the climate of with Black Lives Matter and the protests that we have going, the peaceful protests that we have going on now? Do you think that will impact your band, impact you? And if you've had some instances of circumstances where you might have felt in the past that, you know, you might not have got a fair shake or a complete shake like somebody else would have gotten, share that with us as well.
Okay. Well, I'll address the first question, which was, you know, the fact that I did not teach public school, did that help or hurt me? In my thinking of it, my opinion of this, it hurt me. You know, there were some basic interactions of teaching music and going through that process I did not have, you know, to understand those younger musicians. And I think it was about my second year being an assistant director there that I realized I was missing this piece. As a result, I went out to go get it. So I was at high school band camps. I was engaging in all of these areas. I actually took a job working at a local private school teaching basic instrumental music to elementary kids. I did that for one semester. So I was trying to fill this foundation that I did not have, you know, because Mr. Wells, you know what it is. When you, as soon as you get out there, then you realize, oh, that's why they was trying to teach us all those fingering charts in the brass methods. Oh, that's why I had to go through woodwind methods. So as a result, I had never had the chance to apply that knowledge, you know what I mean?
Right.
That level. So that in other ways, and I think I was able to do that. The way that it helped me was there was some philosophical things about music teaching that I did not have any bad thoughts about yet. So I was open to learning all of these philosophies of instrumental music education. So that I think in that way, it did help me. I had no, I didn't have any experience things that would just be like, nah, that don't work, where it was like, nope, I'm open and I can begin to collect all of these music philosophies for me. Did that answer your first question?
Yes.
Yeah. So the second question, looking at the things that are going on right now, and I don't know when this stuff just happened, and I don't know if you guys got this, but of course now, I'll just be frank. I wasn't around white people until I got to Penn State. I went to a black high school. I'm from Liberty City, went to New Orleans, went to Bethune-Cookman, and then I got to this Penn State, and I was like, whoa, it was the exact opposite. But as a result, I have a lot of white colleagues. When this thing happened, the recent incidents with George Floyd, I got a lot of phone calls from some white colleagues who were just like, wow, I did not realize I was so blind to this. Or how do I help? What am I supposed to do? And of course, I responded, it ain't my job to tell you what to do. You need to do the research and understand why this is a systematic issue. And then also make sure you're understanding how it's perpetuated at the university that we teach at. But again, the difference that I have seen come out of this now is, I'm in Ohio right now. I go walking all the time, but the white folks say hello now. I'm encouraged that there will be some change, because there was a racial instance at Penn State as a result of the peaceful protest. There was a student yelling hate speech there, and they found out he was a Penn State student. And now the student body as a whole is really rallying together because now they have all been forced to see this ugly side of America that so many were blinded to before. So I feel there's going to be some change. I think they got to keep the pressure up. In regards to have there been racial instances that I've experienced, yes, some very blatant. When I was a graduate student of people, just saying racial things or racially insensitive things. For example, I was working with some students and we were doing a video segment and I was talking on this, and the other student said to me, "Can you be more black?" I was like, what? Yeah, exactly. Can you be more black? It was kind of, what was that, Hollywood Shuffle? We need you to ask. But there's also, I want to be clear about this next part. There's also racial discrimination that I'm experiencing on a daily basis because of the result of the academic environment that I'm in. That I have to face daily. So I know a lot of folks that are like, yeah, I want to work at a PWI. I'm like, man, are you ready to face this thing every day? Yeah. Every day. And if you bring up the microaggressions, they looking at you saying you're crazy. Oh, you're just sensitive. You know what I mean? Not that that's happened to me because I deal with it in a different way. But do you really want to be there? Or in my case, being one of the first blacks at this time in this role. And to have that microscope on you every single step of the way. And let's also be honest, of having the pressure and pressure that I put on myself that saying, hey, if I screw this up, there might not be another brother that has this opportunity. Right. That's a lot of pressure, my brothers. I'm just being open with y'all right now. Yeah. I can be open with it now because I've dealt with it and I've said, hey, there's tons of mediocre people in this profession. So, hey, they can screw. I can screw up, and it's all right. I've accepted that in myself, but that was something I had to wrestle with, on a regular basis, with that, and that is a lot of pressure. Did that answer your question, Mr. Wells?
Yeah, man. I just want to say, and I'm glad you went into all of that, and I want everybody else to understand. I remember when you called me one day. You said, "Hey, man, I think I'm gonna come on back to Miami and teach." And I said, yeah, I said, man, ain't shit. I ain't nothing, man. I said, man, look, I say, and then he shared with me some of the things that he was going through. And I said, hey, man, you could be the next band director at Penn State. Just wait your time. Wait your time. And he has. And I know it hasn't been easy. So I'm glad you shared that with everybody else, man. And once again, man, I'm proud of you, man. Just proud of you I can be. All of his good habits he got from me. All his bad habits he didn't get from me.
Thank you, Mr. Wells.
All right, big time.
Well, Greg, you know, Donovan is a minister's son, so you know he's a holy man, you
know. Oh Lord,
man,
right.
where the young guys at, man? What y'all want to know? Where the young guys at?
Yeah. Mr. Johnson, you need to ask a question, sir.
Drane, what's going on, man?
Hey, what's happening?
What's going on, Wildcat? Look, I got a question. You know, I ask you 1,000 questions monthly, but I got a real good question for you, man. How do you balance being a band director of your Callaway and your personal life, being a husband and a father?
Mm-hmm. You know, that is a great question, and I absolutely suck at it. But there's a couple of my colleagues that I reach out to, and they usually advising me on that. You know, I think the best time, what I've really appreciated about this quarantine, it has really taught me, you know, because we're all so, our job demands so much of us personally that we pour so much of ourselves into it. And I found that I'm pouring all of that into my band program. And then I got home and didn't have anything in the tank left for my family, for my wife and my kids, right. You know, and being at home now has really kind of helped me put those things into better perspective, you know. But throughout that, what I started doing, Mr. Johnson, was just like I was planning everything else, I started planning my time with my family. Mm-hmm. Like, okay, date night is this day at this time. Right. This is family night at this time with these things. You know, just like we were scheduling everything else, I started scheduling those family times to make sure that it happens and we're engaging with that on, you know, in that stuff. And I found that to be extremely helpful. During band season, I send my wife flowers once a month. You know, I always say during band season, I'm a deadbeat dad, you know.
Right.
And then in the summer, I'm a stay-at-home dad, you know what I mean? So it's all these cycles. But trying to balance that is hard. I think at the end of the day, looking at what's important to you. Yeah, we love these jobs, but often these jobs don't love us back. You know what I mean? So and understanding the people that are the ones who are going to refill your love tank when you get back home, you know, and pouring into them just as much as we pour into our programs. And you know, if one halftime show isn't exactly right, like it's okay. Some of these things I've started to learn to be that's gonna be okay. And if they fire me for that, then I don't need to be here anyway.
Gotcha. Appreciate that, Doc.
All righty.
All right, we got a question from Mr. Oscar Wright. He's in your young band director group.
How's it going, Wildcat? Congratulations on your job.
How you doing,
sir? And a fellow saxophone player at that. My question is, I just finished up my master's program, and I'm actually considering getting a doctorate. But I am kind of anxious about it. What's some advice you would have for those who are interested in going further?
Oh, okay. Great question. Mr. Wright, are you a part of a fraternity or anything like that? Because I was going to, yes, you are? Maybe.
No,
Mr. Wells on the line. You can't say. I called him out.
He can say it.
Because what I was going to say, in my experience, getting this doctorate degree has been like hazing. I was saying, getting the doctorate degree has been like academic hazing. So if you done been through one of them pledge processes, then you'll understand getting the PhD. But I think at the end of the day, is if it's a personal thing for you, you know, because that's the only thing that's gonna get you over that finish line. And all of the guys who are on this call, I'm sure they'll tell you, Dr. Edie, Dr. Wilson, or also Dr. Jones, you know, they're gonna make you earn it. And then they're gonna get every ounce that they can out of you before you cross and can put a doctor in front of your name. So make sure you understand your why before you engage in that process.
That's right.
Thanks,
all right, we have thank you, Oscar. We have another question from the floor. This is from Bernard Long. Bernard, are you there?
Hey, how you doing, Mr. Drane? All right,
hey.
How you doing, sir?
Pretty
all
good.
Right. I'm a big fan of yours. My name is Bernard Long, band director in St. Louis, Missouri. I teach at Lindenwood University. But recently I in second college job.
You might have to type yours, Mr. Long.
And I asked okay.
Yeah, Mr. Long's having issues, so I'm going to read for you. He did put it in the chat group. I got you, Long.
My bad.
What advice do you have to break into the PWI college level? And he teaches at an adjunct school, but was recently denied at another. And he's been teaching for 7 years.
So I think the question to break into the PWI college level,
yeah.
I think again, what I've learned, even being a part of the Big Ten, or even going to grad school, what I learned is that there's a certain level of trust about where you got your degree from. You know, if you look at the Big Ten hire other people who have Big Ten affiliations and connections, you know, because they know the type of education you received. I think, you know, we see the same thing in the HBCU world. You know, if somebody came from Cookman, you know the kind of education they got, you know, and going to do with your band program. And I'm sure my other colleagues can attest to this, you know, and you see it in the SEC as well. If you got your degree from, you know, the University of Georgia, you know, then another SEC school is gonna feel more comfortable working with you, you know, just because they know your colleagues and stuff there. So, you know, I would say, you know, try to, you know, get affiliated with those kind of institutions, if you will. But at the end of the day, just having an idea in your mind of what type of school you want to work at, you know. Okay. I think that's the first start, you know, because there's tons of PWIs. You know, you got your smaller schools. You know, I think UNCG just got a program that they have out there. So, you know, it's not just a one size fits all when we say PWI. You know, and then you have your large schools at the Big Tens and the SEC and stuff like that. But understanding which type of job you're looking to get first, and then also looking at the people who are doing those jobs, and also having conversations with them and talking with them as well. You know, for me, I used to sell Kirby vacuums one summer in Daytona Beach. And it was something that we had to do called knocking yourself into their house. So I'm walking up with this big old Kirby, and I got to get into their house to do my demo, right? So I used to have to do what I say, I had to knock myself in order to get into the house. And I think that's the same thing that, you know, you're looking at. Hey, you're trying to knock on these doors, and sometimes, you know, you knock on 20, you know, and then finally that one will open for you. So keep knocking on those doors.
All right, thank you.
Awesome advice. Thank you for that. All right, so we've come to the end of our presentation, but I will be remiss if I didn't let this individual say something. Mr. Singleton, you still on? Could you unmute yourself, sir?
Yes,
y'all, this is my band director.
Yes, sir. How's everybody doing today? It's an honor to be here today with all of you distinguished gentlemen. I enjoyed the conversation and all the knowledge that you all have given. I'm retired, but at the same time, I know all what you're talking about. Been there. And for all you young guys out there, I know like Johnson, I talked to him. I'm a woodwind man. Clarinet is my major. I went to Vandercook School of Music, received my master's there, and I taught mainly middle school for predominant of my time of 30 plus 32. How long, McCloud? About 38 years. And last part of my career was high school bands. And McCloud and I, we would always go to concert festival together with no other blacks in South Carolina, except Mr. Harvey, McCloud, and myself on that level. And we had to go through all the prejudice during the time because we was the only one doing it.
That's right.
And they would give you a 2+. I said, well, hell, why you didn't give me a 1-. But those white guys could not write that 1 on your sheet. And at this time, you just have to keep going back. They can't deny it. And we was going to grade 4 and 5. I had 2 bands. I had a 9th, 10th grade band, 11th, 12th grade band. We went in 3, 4, and 5 at concert festival. And I had pretty good musicians there, like Ernest and those type of things, you know. And I enjoyed it. And one for them, I wouldn't be here now, you know. I learned from them, and I learned from McCloud, and Mr. Harvey, Mr. McMillan from Orangeburg, Wilson. So I've been, you know, associated with some good people. So you have to learn from each other, no doubt on that. You don't know everything, but as time goes. But one thing, Dr. Dre, what you're saying is, I started fifth, 6th grade. You had to take the horn out the case, show them how to get a sound on the mouthpiece, show them how to put it together, where the finger goes on all of those keys, and try to get that first note. And it would be a whole month before that first note sounded like anything. And you go from that process. So I enjoyed the beginner band students because I learned what to watch out for on the other end. You know, and some things that we learned at Vandercook was that we had this brass instructor. So what he did, he had about 150 things to watch out for. And what he did was basically, he'll come down there, he may have the trumpet player playing this, his hand may be wrong, all shoe may be wrong, and you got to answer how you're going to improve or what that student is doing wrong. Because you're going to get at the middle school, if the band at the middle school doing wrong, you're going to get it at the high school.
That's right.
So you're going to have to do what to do to correct that, because if you don't correct it, it's not going to produce too much on you for the other end. I'm not going to talk too much, but at the same time, I enjoyed the days of my first section, but I will be joining it again.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. And thank you for everything you did for me, because I would not be here without you. So I appreciate it. And you earned it.
You earned it.
All right. So, thank you all for joining us today. Dr. Drane, it has been an absolute pleasure, sir. And if everyone can unmute your microphone, we're going to join in and give Dr. Drane a nice round of applause.
Yes, indeed.
Woo. Recording.
Good
job. Good job.
Thank you, sir, for giving your time for this. This has been very enlightening for all of us, and I really appreciate it. Mr. McCloud, you have any other comments?
I have one.
What's up, Brunson?
What's going on, brother?
All right.
Hey, Dr. Drane, not necessarily a question, just a comment, brother. Just want to say big ups to you for breaking barriers and, you know,
absolutely
taking us to the next level, brother. Very proud of you, dog. When I first saw the Penn State band and just realized that a brother was there, you know, it really warmed my heart, bro. And so, you know, just want to say keep on breaking barriers, bro.
Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, sir.
What's the name of that one song again, Brother Drane? You said that you play every game.
What, the Seven Nation Army?
Seven Nation Army. I just want to look it up. All right.
Yeah. I got it.
Roots in the
All right. Appreciate y'all for coming on, man. Once again, this has been hosted by AMMEA, the Advocates for Music and Music Education Association, where our mission is to cultivate, support, and enhance music and music education in the state of South Carolina through fostering academic partnerships, professional learning opportunities, and resources for classrooms. Dr. Drane, you have contributed to this effort today in a great way, and we appreciate you, sir. Mr. McCloud.
Next week, we should have Scott Rush.
All right, we got Scott Rush on for next week. So you don't want to miss that one either. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in, and we're signing out. Thank you.